Round number one of World's Fastest Gamer on iRacing saw the resurgence of the Orion race team in our broadcasted race. And now we head ourselves from Asia to America, to Circuit of the Americas, set deep in the heart of Texas. The track that over the last couple of years has become the new home for Formula One racing in America, after previously, of course, being at Indianapolis, Phoenix, Watkins Glen. Not sure we might talk about Las Vegas, but you know what I mean. Here we are. Welcome to World's Fastest Gamer, presented by McLaren at Circuit of the Americas. It's Will Vinson along with Jake Sperry and Paul Smith. And well, Jake, last week we saw some fantastic racing at a very difficult track in Suzuka. Sector 1 here, many people compare to the likes of Suzuka, to the likes of Silverstone, but then you've got hashtag turn 12.
Oh, you absolutely do. The prime overtaking opportunity on the circuit. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And what you will find with Circuit of the Americas is that every single sector has a different personality and a different nature to it. You have the fast, twisting, slowing down section of turn number 1. You have the long straight of sector 1, I should say. Sector 2, that long straight that goes all the way down that 1 mile towards turn 12. And then you've got that third sector where it's very stop-start, and you're always looking to try and find a little bit of momentum. And that last sector is where, if you haven't made a last gasp overtake, you certainly do have the opportunities to make that happen. I have to say, Will, it's going to be something to behold, and as we expected, we could see a second different winner in 2, and it would not be a surprise.
It wouldn't be, certainly. This track has been on iRacing for a number of years now, and actually I want to go back, Paul. One of my craziest memories of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series was when we had a stalled red line driver at the start of the grid, because up to turn number 1 here, it's a long run down, but you mess up at the start and you mess up into turn number 1, it's game over, but you could also end up taking 4, 5, 6, 7 cars out with you.
Well, we've seen countless times sort of incidents into turn number 1. We hope we won't get that tonight, but well, the thing is, that turn number 1, it's so difficult. You've got so many different lines that you could take through that corner, and that's where the issues occur. You then have lines merging. That's where you have the scene of the accident. And then, if you pick up damage on this car, because that first sector and the third sector is so aero-dependent, you're going to be losing grip through those parts, and also you'll be losing out top speed down that long back straight down into hashtag turn number 12. So you want to avoid any incidents at turn number 1 on the first lap. You want to make sure you get through that initial part of the race. Avoid those corner cut curves, because they will cause serious damage to these cars. And just work your way into the race and see what sort of result you could get out of this one, because, to be honest, this is a track that you can overtake at, and you will see overtaking manoeuvres happen, especially with the DRS down the main straight and also down that back straight.
Yeah, you can compare this track arguably as being one of the best ever for American racing in Formula One, possibly only along with Watkins Glen International. Let's have a look at the standings then. After 1 week of racing, 21 races over the course of the week take place. Of course, we bring you one of them here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live, and it is Davide Core who leads the way with 290 points right now on the world's fastest gamer leaderboard. Ilkka Haapala in second place, with Freak Shawhorse in third place, Michael Partington in fourth place, and Fakara rounds out your top 5, Jake. And what's worth noting there is we had the big race on Sunday. This is where the big boys play, to quote my good friend Tony Giovanni.
Yes, and this is where the big boys play makes it very, very important, because yes, you can do those 21 races all through the weeks, but if all the big boys are playing on one certain race, that means that the points values overall become higher, and as such, more points are valued to those when you're in a much stronger field, I think. But personally, if you put yourself in a situation where you're racing against the best and you get yourself a top 10, I think that sometimes that can even be value more than a win, say, later or earlier on in the week, because you build up to this final race and you hope that in this week that you score the points that Davide Korps did, that Ilkka Haapala did, and it's those points that you need to be scoring to win this one. It is done on averages.
It really is indeed. We are about 5 minutes away from us being able to head ourselves over to qualifying. We talked quite a lot before we came on air, Jake, about how qualifying is still important here. Paul alluded a little bit earlier on over the fact you can overtake. You have done the same. But getting sector number 1 right is so important. But then also making sure you've got enough in your tyres when you come through turn 17, 18, 19 to make sure like you can complete the lap. And often we see people either mess it up basically at turn number 1 or turn 3 or at turn number 18.
Yes, you do, and it is very difficult to get the tyres switched on because this is a setup man's nightmare, because you have that very quick to slow section in sector number 1, you have the top speed of sector number 2, and you're always working out how much downforce do I need to put on this vehicle, where do I compromise, at what point in the lap, and it may be that whoever compromises the most decides that they lose out in sector number 2, so they can't make the move into hashtag turn 12, but they'll be brilliant in every other section of the circuit, so if they're out in front, they'll pull away by 3/4 tenths of a second. On the other hand, though, you could have a machine that puts you 3/4 tenths of a second back in qualifying, but is maximised to get turn 12 the best opportunity possible, and as such, you can make 5-6 positions in the race by being able to have that top speed factor. It's a nightmare to set up, and you have no idea what anyone is going to do until you get into qualifying and understand where people stand.
It's worth noting as well that we had a number of drivers from different series take part in round number 1, from the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, also from the Blancpain GT Series. We've seen 1 or 2 drivers from the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze Series doing the same as well. It's worth noting, Paul, that in a couple of weeks' time, the final round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series will be at this track. Early test day, maybe?
Oh, I tell you what, if anybody isn't taking the advantage of all of this track time, then they're missing out here. This is a prime opportunity to set yourself up, maybe if you're not going to make a full assault on the world's fastest gamer, to look at the World Championship Grand Prix Series. But I tell you what, you get a good result here, you might think, well, hang on a second, there's another couple of weeks of this, I might still have a chance of this competition, and you get a few other people taking that opportunity and going for this world's fastest gamer title.
You said a moment ago, Jake, that it might not be the same winner or the same team that wins compared to 1 week ago at Suzuka, partially because of the level of competition here, partially also because this is a very different type of setup compared to Suzuka. So, keys to the race, of course, we know: survive turn 1, survive the S's, survive turn 12 and lap number 1. But who do you think are the picks for the race here today in terms of teams?
In terms of teams, there is always a look at Apex Racing UK and what they can do, because they have that ability to unlock a high-speed setup, which a lot of other drivers and a lot of other teams decide to shy away against a little bit, and that will put them instead, not necessarily in qualifying, but I do expect them to make gains through the race. I do expect them to see them up there and challenging. And what was surprising, actually, after what many consider to be a poor season this year for the team, Radicals Online are certainly coming up and showing that they aren't dead and buried yet. They will have a lot to prove with Daniel Wensing struggling with his steering issues that he had at Suzuka, and I think he wants to come back and win and keep himself with the slenderest of tenterhooks back into this championship battle.
Well, if you missed anything from a week ago at Suzuka, here's your chance to get up to speed as we take you back to what happened at Suzuka. This is RaceSpotTV. This is McLaren's world's fastest gamer. lights go green, and here we are then. World's fastest gamer on iRacing underway, and what a slow start there by Frank Shawhorse in towards turn number 1, losing that second place immediately to the driver of Daniel Wensing. David Course leads from out front, and he's got himself a huge advantage already as we cycle through the field there. 21 drivers heading themselves through the S's for the first time, and well, Jake, that was not a good start at all for Frank Shawhorse. It's always an opportunity, but he pushes wide on the exit of the triangle, that final corner here at this racetrack. The gap is 0.2 per second. He has, however, got DRS open, and you got yourself David Core out front, but Daniel Wensing goes defensive. They make contact, and off goes Frank Shawhorse there. Shawhorse will lose another position to Ilkka Haapala, and Frank Shawhorse tries to go around the outside, gets pushed into by the driver of Daniel Wensing.
But still, though, in position number 2 is Daniel Wensing of the Radicals Online team. But crucially, Orion are 1-3 looking at 1-2. Ilkka Haapala, probably the most underrated driver in sim racing today. He's got a really good opportunity, and all he's done is sit and wait. And he has been perfect at that at just over the halfway stage.
But out front, David Core, let's talk about this one again here, Paul. He's got a lead now of 6 seconds over Daniel Wensing, and he's just putting in the lap times.
It goes down as proof right now that there is always going to be opportunity that's there. The issue that's happening, say, for Ilkka Haapala is that he can't close in on Wensing. The issue for Shawhorse is that you got Haapala with the DRS and the ERS basically negating any opportunity. But look how it bunches up through the Casio triangle. Huge wiggle, though, from Wensing. 2 wiggles, 3 wiggles, 4 wiggles. Still manages to hold it. He loses it. And now look at Shawhorse. Hits the pit wall. Hits the pit wall. And Schumacher Barrichello S 2012. My goodness me, Haapala was ruthless.
Yeah, here's the replay again on board of him. You can see the 2 cars going on ahead, and there you can see the driver of Frank Shawhorse hitting the wall, Jake. Down they come for the final time, and now for the team of Orion Race Team, they'll head themselves in to 130R. David Core just has the Casio triangle to go. Through the Casio triangle, they'll come for the final time, and David Core, Orion Race Team, wins round number 1 of 4 of McLaren's iRacing's world's fastest gamer.
iRacing, you wanted the best, you got them 4 abreast, often imitated, never duplicated, the greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws!
Welcome to Texas, Circuit of the Americas, iRacing's world's fastest gamer in partnership with McLaren, qualifier number 2. Today, 16 drivers will take on the test of Circuit of the Americas, They are currently qualifying, looking to go as fast as they can in the time allocated to them, in which they've got 6 minutes remaining. There's your look at the track conditions. It is about 3.3 miles in length, this racetrack. First debuted in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series in 2015. There are 16 turns around this racetrack. Martin Kroenke has the fastest lap in this McLaren car. He set that in 2016, 1 minute 34.053. Will we get a new record today? Who is to know? It's Wilkinson, Jake Sperry, Paul Smith here today. Shout out to Istvan Balal for Track Council Gourmets. Our overlay presented by And One Design. Our overlay animations by App Engineer, the people that get all the back of house work done for us. Live timing and scoring will be available when the race is on. Here is a look then at the standings heading into round 2. David Akor, Ilka Happara, Orion Race Team are leading the way. David Akor with a win at Suzuka has 290 points. Ilka Happara 15 back. Frank Shorthorse in 3rd place, with Michael Partington in 4th place. And Massimiliano Ficara rounding out your top 5. Qualifying, as we say, is underway. These guys have now got just under 5 minutes to get laps turned in. And here are a look at the lap times as they come through. Jake Sturgis is here today in the number 1 machine. Inex Racing, we've got him. He's shown up. And, well, I mean, this is one of the most rounded drivers in the history of iRacing, Paul. This driver almost won races in the World Championship Grand Prix Series. He's been fantastic in terms of the NASCAR Peak Entry Series. We've seen him in action in the Blancpain GT Series as well. He's one of the few drivers to have ever competed in all 3 top-level series on iRacing, and now he's represented in World's Fastest Gamer.
Yeah, he's certainly got the all-round ability that very few drivers seem to have, and well, you look at his car control was certainly spectacular as he came around the exit of that triple apex right-hander towards the end of the lap, turn number 18, and well, he's set a lap time 5th fastest at the moment. Frank Shorthorse, though, pole position, provisionally pole position at the moment, and he may go for another lap or he may not. We'll have to wait and see. But Ilka Happara just coming round now towards the end of a lap. He's just on his out lap at the moment, so he's not set a lap time yet. He's given himself plenty of time, and well, interested to see what he can do, because he was 2nd place last week. He really did show that he's got the ability to be up there challenging.
Yeah, indeed. And Ilka Happara, we know how fast he can be. He's one of these drivers, Jake, that we often ignore in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, but we know that he is a dependable driver. And in fact, he kind of leads at Orion Race Team under 2 phrases: consistency and consistency.
He does, but he didn't stay undeterred as he actually bottles his first lap and will decide to bring that one back to pit. He did keep himself in the limelight, of course, the incident he had yesterday with the likes of Paschalis Jurgis and Kevin Ellis Jr. He got a little bit involved in that, but drivers typically with their 2 laps only go out for that 1 big lap and decide, nope, I can't do any further than that. There's no point trying to go 2 laps on the tyres. But for those who mess up that opening lap and decide to send it back to pit road before the end of the event or at the end of their 2nd lap, they have that opportunity to go out and set 1 more. Drivers like Kazuki Umeshima is certainly one of them.
I'm just looking at the timing right now. I don't think he's going to get this time set. I don't think he's going to be able to set a lap time here, Ilka, which would be an absolute disaster for him. But to be honest, it'll then show his ability and be able to come through the field.
It takes about 1 minute 37 to do a lap around here, and as it stands right now, he's only about halfway through the lap, and unless he's get back to the start-finish line in the next 23 seconds, which he's not going to do, then Ilka Happara will be starting from the rear of the field here today. Kazuki Umeshima is in a slightly better position as he works himself now through 19 in towards turn number 20. And Kazuki Umeshima then heads himself out the final corner towards the start-finish line. Let's see what we've got there for the driver of Kazuki Umeshima. Onto a lap he goes for Radicals Online, Paul.
Yeah, so here he comes then onto his flying lap, and he's a spectacular driver, is Kazuki. We've seen him in many series. We've seen him in the World Championship Grand Prix Series, and well, we've seen him almost win races as well in the World Championship Grand Prix Series. He's certainly got a good quick ability to him. And it's how you use this, especially his first sector. We've seen how he's just having to work that first sector, compromising maybe one corner to get the next corner right, get that all lined up. Into turn number 11 now. Not so important to hit the apexes as long as you get the run out of that apex, out of that corner, and carry the speed all the way down the straight. The DRS is wide open. He'll maybe even be using a lot of his battery as well, up to about 208 miles an hour as he hits the brakes hard for turn number 12. Clip that apex, running out over the curb into 13. This tricky section your car always wants to understeer around here. He's certainly giving it a good go, and well, this is the end of the gone through 2 sectors now, is heading towards possibly my favourite corner on the track, this one, this triple apex right-hander, 16, 17 and 18. Difficult lap here, and if you can hook it all up, it's an absolute joy to drive through 19, trying not to cut too much. You'll get a penalty if you do. And then into turn number 20, clip that apex, run it out wide, get your DRS wide open. That's your lap time, and how does he do? He goes up to 7th.
Yep, 7th place for him. There is Ilkka Haapala. He's not going to make it. Qualifying is over, so that is it. We are not going to get him today. Here's a look at his starting grid. Frank Shawhorse, pole position. Gets himself a time of 1 minute 37.047. Jamie Fluke in 2nd place for Club UK and Ireland. David Accor in 3rd place, with Tommy Ostgaard then rounding out your front 2 rows. Cycler on back, you've got yourself Jake Sturgis, 5th place then. Had provisional pole for the time being, fell back into that 5th position when all was said and done. Moritz Lerner in 6th place, Kazuki Umeshima in 7th, and Zoran Zonik then rounding out your top 8. 9th place is for Kara, and Partington there in 10th place. Partington, of course, was was in the top 5 of the championship. He was in P number 4 heading into this event. However, he and Ilkka Haapala have had tough days here today. Brandon Eves, 13th place. David Williams in 14th. Neil Andrews, 15th. And then Ilkka Haapala will start this race in the 16th and last position. And that is not what he would have wanted here today. The drivers are now lining themselves up on the starting grid. We are getting ourselves ready to go racing here at Circuit of the Americas. But out front, one thing that is worth noting is that Frank Shawhorse, that Team Redline team, yesterday in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series had a bunch of miserable, and I mean absolutely miserable starts. If that happens again here today, we could be in for some big issues. The drivers are on that starting grid. They are almost ready to go now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is round number 2 of McLaren's World's Fastest Gamer. The lights are about to go on top of the gantry, and when it does that, we will be ready to go racing. Green flag in the air, here we go. And again, a slow start there by Team Redline. They didn't fix their issues from yesterday, and that means that Jamie Fluke and David Accor going side by side into one. David Accor with the race lead. A little bit of contact there, moves Jamie Fluke back down into the 3rd position. And it's, again, another miserable start for Team Redline. Frank Shawhorse is able to hold on to 2nd place, only because of the fact that David Accor just got tagged from the rear of Jamie Fluke as they exited turn number 1. All 16 cars have got themselves going in this event. Jake Sturgis still runs himself in that 5th position there for the Inex Racing team. At the rear of your field, we all want to know what Ilkka Haapala is doing. He's at a barnstorming start. He is up to P number 11 there, Paul.
He certainly is. We had issues from Anna Domingo and Braden Eves as well. They came together at turn number 1. Domingo's got damage on his front wing, but he's able to carry on here. So all 16 cars still running in this one. But what a stormer from Ilkka Haapala. Like you say, up to that 11th place so far. He's already looking at the gearbox of Partington in front. So he means business here, but he's not going to have it all his way, because David Williams, he'll want that position back here.
Here's the thing that I don't quite understand, Jake. Yesterday we saw such a bad start by the Team Redline team. You would have thought they would have gone away, they would have had to think about it and work out what went wrong, but they didn't. And again, Team Redline, this happened last week at Suzuka as well. Team Redline do not seem to be able to get the starts going on here, as we now have a look on board with Frank Shawhorse as he's putting the pressure on David Accord, but nowhere near close enough to make the move into turn number 1.
No, certainly not, and it is a shame to see a poor start again from Team Redline. It's almost becoming what you normally seem to expect. He got swamped for the second time in 2 weeks, and for Frank Shawhorse, that's the only part of his game you feel he needs to work on. It might just be a case of sitting down in a team office, going out onto a circuit and going hour, 2 hours just purely on starts, purely working out how to make it perfect. But as you can see in that opening section of the circuit there, David Corpse just pulls away from Shawhorse there, and Frank Shawhorse has nothing to work with. Now he'll be under pressure from Jamie Fluke, but no DRS until next lap means it's got to be done on ERS alone, and I think all those drivers will be saving for the mega pull in 1 lap's time. Also worth noting, great scrap going on for position 5 as well, Sturgis versus Lorna.
Yeah, we have got some great scraps going on. There is Fluke over Shawhorse. We're going to put it back then to Sturgis and Lorna, as we just see number 5 machine putting the pressure on right now in the very colourful number 5 machine versus the number 1 of Jake Sturgis. Sturgis had an okay start to this motor race, didn't gain anything, didn't lose anything. But behind, you've got yourself Lona, Benzonic, and Kuzuki Umeshima. He's another driver who's had a fantastic start to this motor race. We're right on board with him right now as he works himself through turn number 19. DRS will be enabled as they cross the start-finish line and pull. That's going to be really important, because I want to see how much Shawhorse has in terms of the noisy pedal and in terms of what his top line speed is into 1. It wasn't great, but Jamie Fluke behind him has lost a little bit of time.
Yeah, well, they actually won't get that DRS until they reach the exit of turn number 11, because, of course, that was the start of lap number 2 after the DRS line. So, well, this is where it's going to be interesting now. And how's that dirty air affecting Frank Shawhorse as well? Is he struggling a little bit through this technical section of the first part of the lap? Is he able to stay behind? The answer is yes. He's about half a second behind, so he's well inside that DRS zone. But Jamie Fluke behind him as well as a further.
Oh, he's gone for the inside! And they make contact! They're side by side as they head themselves now down towards turn number 12. This might not be 1 wide, this might not be 2 wide, it is 3 wide. Look at that, all the way down to the inside goes Jamie Fluke. Is going to run over basically the curbs when the 2 tracks merge together, and it is going to be Frank Shawhorse in the lead of the motor race. But that was a very controversial move there. It's now Shawhorse from Fluke, from David Accord. That one definitely deserves a replay, as this is actually as they head themselves down to turn number 12. This is the back end of the internet. I want to show it to you again from just a little bit further back, because here is Frank Shawhorse as he heads himself down into turn number 11. He gets a good run. We pause it there. He moves down to the inside last moment, and I just think that David Accord came across him there, Jake.
It's very difficult. I think Shawhorse definitely had a lot of overspeed heading down in towards turn number 11. The contact came together, but it was very, very cheeky what he did to Jamie Fluke. I think that's the second thing that you need to look at that situation. Fluke was pushed all 4 tyres off of the racing surface, but fair play to Jamie Fluke. He kept his foot in and said, you know what, I'm not giving up this. Let me back on circuit and I'll give you a proper fight. 0.8 of a second now between the red line driver and the Apex Racing UK driver. What a great scrap it was on lap 2, or lap 3 shall I say. 18 laps of this event, so not long to make things happen, and Fluke's got to stay within a second.
Yeah, he has indeed. Zonic versus Lorna battling for P number 6. Now Zonic is actually struggling through sector number 1 right now. Ilka Hapala, he's down to the inside of Michael Partington as they work themselves now through turn number 11, but Hapala does not get a good run off of the corner. They work themselves now down towards turn number 12. Partington has got the DRS flap open, as has Ilka Hapala. He moves to the inside, but he cannot make anything. And this is, oh my word, he actually is going to try and work around the outsides. We've got a car gone off as well. That is Jake Hewlett there in the Coanda Sim Sports car, just going very wide down at turn number 12 by the looks of that. As well, Not so much is going on here, Paul, and the majority of it is now down in your mid-pack. But for sure, Horse, that is one that will be reviewed and talked about after this race.
I tell you what, people are going to talk about that move for a long, long time, that's for sure. He's got a very slight bit of front wing damage. I don't think it'll affect him that much, and it's certainly not affected his lap times. Looking at Moritz Lerner, Zoran Zjonjic and Kazuki Mishima, they were actually all side by side as they were heading into turn 16, 17, 18. They've all sorted themselves out, no contact between the three of them. But these guys, they're all going at it. They're not giving up here, and you just think that Zjonjic is thinking that I've got a little more pace here, I need to get past, but Moritz Lerner doing a fantastic job keeping him behind for the time being.
Yeah, as there's a fantastic look then of the drivers heading themselves through the S's. Lap number 4 of 18 already in this event, and Jamie Fluke then in second position. We turn our attention over to him. The issue for Frank Shawhorse is, of course, he has no one to get DRS from. As they work themselves down towards turn number 12, gaps down to 5 tenths of a second, 4 tenths of a second. And that's all Jamie Fluke's going to get. It just dips below 4 tenths, Jake.
Just below 4 tenths, but at the same point, I wonder if Jamie Fluke was using all of the right setting there with his ERS to close that gap. He knew at 6 tenths of a second behind, he didn't need to do too much. At the same point, Frank Shawhorse was probably defending with his ERS as well. So with the ERS being defending, that gap is always going to be diminished. But by the same point, Will, you have to argue Frank Shawhorse will not have that and will have to save at some stage. And when he does have to save, and the fact that there is DRS and Jamie Fluke is still closing that gap down, as it was 6 tenths of a second when they last crossed the line, and when they crossed the line this time at the very, very quick run to the start-finish line, that one is ever so slightly elongated. You feel that Jamie Fluke at some stage will have that ability to close right down that gap to the red line driver.
Yeah, there's a look at the last laps of these drivers as they head themselves through turn number 1 and into turn 2 once again. Turn 2 is actually one of those corners that people don't give enough credit for, because it sets you up perfectly for the S's if you get it right. It really hurts you if you get it wrong. Ilka Happana watch, he's still in P number 11, still behind Michael Parkington. And I think that the issue with Parkington was there, Paul, that he couldn't get the run through turn number 11 to get himself side by side. You talked about this earlier on, saying that actually sometimes you don't want to hit the apex in 11, you just want the exit speed. And that's exactly what Ilka Happana is not going to do. They're side by side, they're making contact, they're rubbing wheels, and Happana again is going to lose out.
I tell you what, the Pirelli logos will be rubbed off by the end of this race between these two. It's certainly been determined driving from Harpala. He's trying, he's got DRS, but so too as Michael Partington. Into turn number 12, Partington hold that inside line. Here comes Williams down the inside, contact with Harpala, open to the area. He's able to carry on here, but David Williams saw an opportunity there and he was there. I'll take it, thank you very much.
Yeah, and somehow Harpala doesn't have too much damage there to his Orion race team car, but this is what the difficulty is. When you qualify yourself so far down in the field, there's always a risk in being involved in other people's business, and David Williams, we know how much he is a hard charger as well. We see it on RaceSpot Race Day. We've seen it so many times before on RaceSpotTV as we go back on board with the driver Moritz Lerner as he tries to close down Zoran Zjonjic in the battle for P number 6 on track right now. Live timing and scoring, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen even, is still available. Go on, Jake.
David Williams, no, well, I'm going to say David Williams has had an issue at turn number 1. He was under attack from Ilka Harpala, completely missed his braking, just went straight on there into the runoff area. That's lost him 2 places because Jake Hewlett now has made his way through past his teammate. It's
like he was taking a detour to go to the Burger King or something, Jake.
Yeah, and for David Williams, yes, he may be the man of 1,004 overtakes, but that would not be the best defense that I've ever seen getting himself into that situation. He's just got to calm down and be a little bit more concentrated in the way that he is running this event and keeping himself in check. But I have to say, give credit to Frank Shawhorse though. He is able just to pull out a few hundredths of a second every single lap, and he's pulled that gap up to 7 tenths of a second, and that's fair credit to him, a driver who is by my respects, arguably overlooked because of the fact that he's in an institute of drivers where they are already multiple world champions and at the very top of the game.
Yeah, his teammates include Bono House, already qualified for World's Fastest Gamer. Gregor Hutu, already qualified for World's Fastest Gamer. The likes of Olli Pakala, the likes of Alexei Yusiakola, for example. You all who are fantastic talents, as right now Frank Schorhorst is one of those drivers that just has to make it work for him. Of course, you've got to remember that Max Verstappen is also a member of that Team Redline stable, as the battle going on. Sturgis, Zoniek, Lonha, Umeshima still going on. P number 5, 6, 7, 8 on track right now. Sturgis is seemingly able to hold on to that 5th position, and so often we talk about the way that Inex Racing find a way of getting the maximum top speed out the car without compromising too much aerodynamic ability, Jake.
Yeah, you do, and Inex Racing, although they've played a much more bit part role, shall we say, in the iRacing World Championship this year, yeah, I can't take anything away from Jake Sturgis as the man who just does everything and everything else. Here comes Umeshima, though, just behind, down to the inside of Moritz Lohner in the Hoiksingveld Core Motorsports machine. Wasn't able to make that happen, but will have DRS to make anything work. But still, will be able to try and close that gap because there is a diminished effect here of DRS. But here comes Jonjic down the inside of Sturgis, but Sturgis will get a much better run out of the exit of the corner, taking that wider line, and as such defends the position. And that's good car placement there from Jake Sturgis. He knows his stuff.
Yeah, he does indeed. Remains in the 5th position. And again, what we're seeing, Paul, is drivers just not hook up turn 11 the right way. There is actually the best line to do when you're attacking through turn number 11 is actually give a little bit to get a little bit later on. Throwing it down the inside will never work because of the fact that you end up having lower revs, lower speed, down what is essentially a 1 mile straightaway, one of the longest actually on an FIA sanctioned racetrack. You're always going to lose out.
You certainly are going to lose out, and taking that wider entry into the corner means that you'll get the run out of it. You're basically V'ing off the corner and taking a later apex, getting the power on earlier, so you're going to carry that speed all the way down that straight there, and that really does help you if you're making that move, because really turn number 12 is all you want to make that move into rather than turn number 11. Sturgis this lap has just had a few issues. He's been running wide at a couple of corners and he's clipped one of those anti-cut curbs as well, so he's going to have to be careful here because he's struggling a little bit here. Maybe the pressure of having 3 cars bearing down on him is just starting to get to him, although I say that he's one of the top drivers in iRacing.
One of the most versatile drivers in iRacing as well. Him and his brother, of course, PJ, well known on the dirt racing scene in America. Here comes Jonic then, down to the inside, and he is going to get the inside line into turn number 12. And that's exactly what we've been talking about. A bit of a wiggle there by Sturgis on the exit of turn number 12. You don't make the move into 11, Jake. You make it into turn number 12, sacrifice a little, gain a little later on.
You certainly do, and Zoran Jonjic doing very well for the Orion race team, which means once again 2 Orion cars inside of the top 5. Davide Cook's been dropped though from the leading 3 battle. That will allow Fluke and Schothos to just break away, and the difference in times yet again we're going to see here is now up to 0.8 of a second. Poor lap from Jamie Fluke, 1:39.1. 38.9 from Frank Schothos, nothing special, but enough to pull 0.2 of a second away. And if he's not careful here, Jamie Fluke, he loses DRS, and then it's all over. But side by side, Lohner versus Sturgis. Sturgis is now going backwards. Jump yourself off the train. He tries it. They're almost going to go 3 wide in 2. Lohner on the outside, inside for 3.
Yo, what a wiggle there for Jake Sturgis. Down into P number 7 as Core Motorsports there just get the position ahead, move Moritz Lohner up into P number 6. But that was one of those moments when many drivers would lose that race car completely. We were lauding the praises, of course, of Jake Sturgis as a versatile driver, him and his brother, of course, being dirt racers. But here's the thing there, Paul, that was his dirt speciality coming back in when that tail got happy through turn number 2.
Absolutely, the feel of the throttle, he'll just be feathering that throttle a little bit of opposite lock there. Sort that out, sort that wiggle out, and get back with them in towards the rest of the S's there. And he's trying into turn number 12. That's leaving him open to Kazuki Umeshima, who's going to look around the outside. If you can hold it around the outside of these two corners, you've got the inside for the next one. It's a left-hander, and that's what Umeshima has done. Great move there from Kazuki to able to hold it there. Little bit of a power slide on the way out there. I think Kazuki's saying, hey, you're into dirt racing, I want to go at that as well.
Well, yeah, it's more drift racing than dirt racing when you're going to Japan. But Kazuki Umeshima, we know he is always good at this type of racetrack. He is up into P number 7, over halfway now through this event. And they're side by side again. And actually, a big wiggle from Kazuki Umeshima. Loses one place. He's in risk now of losing another place as well, because there is Bakara down to the inside through turn number 1. Frostmaster, Movano Racing down to the inside through that first corner, and Umeshima from P7 down to P number 9, Jake.
It happens just like that for Kazuki Gun, I should certainly say. And well, it seems that right now for Kazuki Umeshima, he's got to hope that he gets himself back into play. One wiggle, especially in this 5-car train that we've got, and it just bumps back through. And actually on the back of that, that's Ilkka Haapala having a half spin coming out to turn number 9, and that's 2 more positions lost for him. The horror day is personified even further, and I think that he is just going to have to try and reap his losses.
Yeah, and Ilkka Haapala, we talked about him being Mr. Consistency earlier on. He is not having a good day here today. There we are, exit of the S's. Half spin, managed to get it pointed in the right direction, but loses one position, loses another position. Ilkka Haapala down into 13th place right now, and that is exactly the last thing he would have wanted to have had happen. Frank Shawhorse, by the way, has just broken 1 second. In fact, right now, it is exactly 1 second. Just ticks over again to 1.1. Shawhorse has now broken DRS, Paul.
Yeah, and that's crucial for him. This is where he'll now try and pump the laps in. He's not giving that ability for Jamie Fluke to use the DRS to get that little bit of extra top speed on those 2 straights, down the pit straight and also down that back straight down into turn number 12. So he's now able to try and pull away, use the speed that he's got in that car, use all the tyres that's available to him. Quite a warm track temperature as well, so you've got to be looking after the tyres a little bit here. As we saw last week, we saw drivers struggling with the tyres overheating towards the end of the race, but still, Fluke, he's just teasing, he's just toying with that 1 second gap. And I do believe he's possibly got back into that 1 second, so he's going to have DRS this time by down towards turn number 12.
Another thing is, this is only an 18-lap race here, Paul. And again, you and I, we talk, we laugh, we joke on RaceSpot Race Day. This is about the length that we do on RaceSpot Race Day in the Super Cup. But today, you know, it's a case of Umeshima pushes very wide and gets it. And that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to push wide through 12 and get the wiggle and lose momentum. Because now you've got Michael Partington, who is basically going to say, thank you very much, I want that position, and I'm going to take it away right now. Partington down to the inside, cannot brake late initially, but the 2 work side by side. Partington almost coming alongside the driver of Kazuki Umeshima, cannot make that move stick, and the Logitech car then of Evolution Racing Team has to stay in 10th place for the time being. I would call that one, Paul, an opportunity lost.
Yeah, he had an opportunity there, and really he should be taking it with both hands there. He just didn't, the door was there, the door was open, and he appeared to miss it and walked straight into the wall. But there you go, that's what happens sometimes if you just don't quite have the confidence on your braking point to get it thrown into that corner. So he's having to just sit behind in that 10th place. Top 10 though, it's still a good result if he could get it, but he wants to move forward, and I think his team boss Brendan O'Brien will be encouraging him from afar to push on and to get as many positions as possible.
Lap number 12, we had Jamie Fluke 4/10 of a second faster than Frank Shawhorse. And the thing I was going to talk about was tyre management here today. We know that these guys can do about 25-30 laps on a set of tyres, but when you do a shorter race like this, Jake, you push this a little bit harder. You go a little bit more aggressive. Maybe Jamie Fluke has spent a bit of time at the start of this motor race just saving those tyres after he was almost taken out of it, let's not forget.
Yeah, exactly, and especially at turn number 1 when Davide Corps just effectively shut the door on the exit of 1 and said, Jamie Fluke, you've got nowhere to go, hit the brakes, son. It's not a case of you expect him to be there in second, and not only that, but actually closing at a very impressive race as they head under the Budweiser advertisement right now, heading towards turn numbers to 19, 20, 21 out on circuit. All over that anti-cut curb, though, there was Frake Schothorst, and he is trying everything just to hold any slither of memorandum of the race lead right now. Crosses the line, 5 laps to go, half a second between them and just a little bit more. I think Jamie Fluke, if he can just about keep it within 0.3 of a second, has a chance, and that's a major mistake, Pex from Schothorst. He is crumbling.
Oh yes, he is. The gap is now down below 4 tenths of a second, and Jamie Fluke is coming again. You've got to be careful now if you're Fluke. You're into the dirty air for the first time in about 4 laps. You've got to make sure that you keep that car going and you don't try and find a way of being too aggressive too early. For the first part of the S's, for the second part of the S's, Fluke is okay for the moment as they now work themselves down to turn number 11. And this is the corner that many people get wrong, but this is a fantastic run now for Jamie Fluke. He will have DRS wide open. He will have the ERS wide open. Is he closing off? He was 4 tenths of a second, heading himself out of the corner. And you can see defensive line there by Frank Shawhorse. Fluke goes around the outside. Shawhorse, oh, they made contact for the second time here today, Paul. And Fluke goes to the race lead.
It's a little bit naughty. It's the gloves off racing this. Schothorst is almost around. We saw him have issues last time out of Suzuka. Well, Jamie Fluke, what a move. He had to be a bit forceful there because Schothorst wasn't giving him the room, and I think Fluke had the warning of that from what happened earlier on in the race. But he's into the lead now. The question is, has he picked up any damage from all that contact?
There was one little hit there. I mean, technically, if you're going to be honest about it, he did advance his position whilst he was off track. They make contact a second time here. And, well, there's no love lost then between Apex Racing UK and the team of Redline, or the driver Jamie Fluke and Frank Shawhorse. This is our 3rd different lead change of the day, and well, I will say one thing, the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series has got some of the best races in the world, Jake, but today we've got some of the best racing I've seen in a Formula 1 race in a long time.
Yeah, gloves are off. No stewards here watching the action. It is legitimately you try and score your points by hook or by crook. Massive wiggle, though, out of 9 from Jamie Fluke. Allows Schothorst another opportunity then on the brakes into the left-hander of turn number 11 out on circuit. And there's a big wiggle, and actually that's the position being given back there potentially by Jamie Fluke to try and get that better run going through. What a very weird situation from him. And in fact, it was oversteer, torque oversteer out of the corner, my mistake. So issue for Jamie Fluke, position through Frank Schothorst.
Yeah, and that's very interesting to note. And again, quite often you can just see, I want to recycle that back about 10 seconds. Here we are on board with Jamie Fluke. You know what, that was about that wasn't a half spin, that was about a 130-degree spin there by Jamie Fluke. He was really tail happy coming out of turn number 11. But I was just about to think there here, Paul, that there's so many things that you have to deal with in this McLaren MP4-30 that you've got to consider the fact of, you know, things like anti-roll bars, so on and so forth, but also the fact the car handles so differently when you're in clean air compared to dirty air.
Yeah, you've got so many things to adjust. You've got to adjust all your energy recovery system. You've got to think about how you deploy your energy then from that battery pack. You've got to consider brake bias changes during the lap. There's all sorts of different things you've got to adjust in this car whilst you're travelling around at 190 miles an hour. You know, it's like sort of like patting your head and rubbing your belly as you're going around on a roller coaster. You know, it's not the easiest thing to do. And these guys, they're absolutely some of the best drivers that we have at this, and we're seeing fantastic racing, wheel-to-wheel action from these guys. Fluke taking that later apex again, trying to get that speed through the corner, but he's not quite got the run. Yeah, he's not quite got the run this time. He's about 6/10 behind. But look who's there lurking in the background there. David Decor. He's not out of this one yet here, Will.
Yeah, bonjour David Decor as he works himself into turn number 12. Now, he has got enough time to pass both of these drivers, but he has got to be what I call power move style. This is like being in the fourth quarter of a college football game. Big wiggle from David Decor, and a bad line, actually, very bad line into turn number 14. Losing himself about 1/10 of a second as a consequence of that. There's only one driver, by the way, out of the race today. That is Brandon Eves, and one driver who has made a pit stop. That is the Iberia driver of Mano Domingo. He is now all the way down in P number 15 in that Positive Sim Racing car. To give you an update then on some of the drivers who started out of place here today, Ilka Happala, only in P number 12, is hunting down Jake Hewlett, but P number 11 is probably as high as he will get here today. We've then got ourselves Michael Partington. He is only in P number 10 after being classified 4th after week number 1 in this series. Jake Sturgis, we had high hopes of him starting 5th. He's now down into P number 7. But your top 3, Frank Shawhorse, Jamie Fluke, and then David Decor as for car an incident.
Yeah, that was, and that's exactly what I was looking at. That was Michael Partington, made the dive down the inside into turn number 1, and it just tracked out on the exit there. And, well, we've been saying how different lines through that first corner all come together, and that's exactly what happened there. And, well, Ficarra, amazingly, is able to keep going.
Yeah, it's been very close on 2 occasions in this race. Ilka Happala went up and came back down, was able to continue. There's our second one then between the driver of Ficarra and also Michael Partington here today. There's going to be now another look coming in towards turn number 1. Let's have a look. You see the tighter apex taken into turn number 1 by Partington. On the exit of the corner, you can just see, actually, you can't really see much at all from that number 14 car. But we've got another issue as Ilka Happala goes very wide as he's trying to put the pressure onto Jake Hewlett. As we've also now got Umashima versus Jake Sturgis. This is a battle going on now, and this is going to be a great little scrap between Umashima and Sturgis down to the inside. Tries to go Umashima in turn number 8. This is why I love Umashima so much, Jake.
Yeah, he's doing a fantastic job of harassing the back of Jake Sturgis, and they crossed the line in just a few moments' time. It's white flag time. It's 1 lap to go here at Circuit of the Americas, and he needs to make that move. So let's focus at the front of the field, because Fluke is starting to drop too far back here. 3/4 of a second. That's nowhere near good enough to make things happen. It's now got to be mistakes from Shothors, and there's a big one there coming out of 9. Shothors, the massive tank slapper, holds on to it somehow, but does he still have 4/10 of a second to hold on with between now and the end of this turn 12 corner?
Yes, he does. For the moment, the gap is still 3/4 of a second between himself and Jamie Fluke, and this will go down to the race that Shawhorse somehow managed to recover when everything was against him. We'll remember what happened down at the start of this motor race. He was so bad at the start. He did a power move, a controversial move, some will say, to get him back to the race lead. And then he was able to hold on when Fluke did come attacking. The two came together once again, but then Fluke made a mistake all by himself. And that means that Frank Shawhorse now just has himself about 3 corners to go, and he will be able to claim victory in the second round of the qualifications for McLaren's World's Fastest Gamer on iRacing. Through turn number 20 they come for the final time. Frank Shawhorse exits the corner, and Frank Shawhorse will win for Team Redline here at Circuit of the Americas. It'll be Shawhorse, then the driver of Jamie Fluke, and David Decor running at your podium today. Tommy Osgard, haven't talked about him all race long really, but he claims a well-deserved 4th place for Positive Sim Racing. And then Zoran Zoniak will round out your top 5 for the Orion race team. And then in P number 6 will be Maurice Lorna there. You've seen him coming past the line in the Core Motorsports car. Heisenberg Core Motorsports. Jake Sturgis in 7th. Kazuki Umashima 8th. 9th place to Michael Partington. And then 10th place, that one goes to Jake Hewlett. Well, Paul, they made us work for our dinner tonight.
Yeah, they certainly did. That action aplenty in that race. Fantastic stuff to watch. And I tell you what, Will, we're going to have to take a breath because, well, it's drama, and it was a little bit of controversy just sprinkled in upon that as well. And, you know, it has to be hats off Freck Shotthorst. He did have the pace in the end to hold on to that lead, but my, that was exciting. That was great stuff to watch.
Let's have a look at your final race results then here from Circuit of the Americas. Freck Shotthorst wins by about 0.5 of a second in the end over Jamie Fluke. David Akor in third place, with Tommy Osgaard in fourth, and Zoran Zhornik there rounding out your top 5. Moritz Lerner in P number 6, with Jake Sturgis in 7th. Kazuki Umeshima, Michael Partington, and Jake Hewlett round out your top 10. There's the rest of the results here today. Only one retiree at your 16-car field. That was Brandon Eves, a part of Club OHIO. Ilka Happara comes home in the 11th place. David Williams, Ficarra, Andrews, and D'Amigo are the other drivers that finished this race. 2 drivers had a couple of issues. They were Neil Andrews and D'Amigo. But from Ficarra towards your winner, 13 drivers separated by 30 seconds. We're going to take a quick break then, ladies and gentlemen, here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Back with more analysis, a look towards what will happen for the next round as well after these messages. Back in a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget the final round of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series will be here from Circuit of the Americas on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. We already have a 2-time world champion in Martin Kroenke, but we still got to find out, can he match Gregor Hutu's win record. You'll find out here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live on the 7th of October. But now, back to World's Fastest Gamer. That was fun, wasn't it, Jake?
Absolutely. You couldn't have asked for a better race, and even though Frank Schothorst gave about 4 or 5 different opportunities to give another driver a race victory, it shows the grit and determination he has, even when he isn't driving at 100% and arguably 90% that he was driving at today in terms of his ability skill. He still managed to dig in, find out his B drive or his C drive, and still come home with the race victory. And that is a mark of a true racer right there.
This will move him up, certainly, in terms of the rankings. We could be looking now at 3 Team Redline drivers here, Paul, in terms of World's Fastest Gamer. And this will solidify Team Redline's message as being the world's greatest sim racing team, because that is at the basically the top of their website. We are the best sim racing team in the world. And you look at Gregor Hutu, of course, he's got himself these 5 world championships. You look also at the people they've got on that team, the likes of Max Verstappen, the likes of Olli Pakila, Alexei Ysiakola, Bono House, who has already qualified for this competition. They had a 3rd driver to the mix, and I've got to say, they've got to be hands-on favourites as a team effort for someone to take that crown.
Well, this is it. It is such an organisation that they've got there, and okay, maybe things haven't quite worked out this season in terms of the World Championships that they performed in this season, but they have got some of the best talent out there, and they'll be working hard to try and make sure that it's a Team Redline driver who ends up stepping through the doors at working with that new job. You know, it's an amazing opportunity for these drivers, and Team Redline have really sort of grabbed the bull by the horns. Okay, maybe not a certain red one, but still.
Hey, they've got him on the team, so you might as well use the analogy.
Yes, absolutely. But, you know, they've got this perfect opportunity, and if they can work together as a team, they could maybe force themselves into that position.
We've got to also remember as well, Jake, we've got a couple of people who are regular iRacers who are not taking part in this because they've already punched their ticket elsewhere. Isaac Price is the first driver that comes to mind, so you have got representation already for Cornwall Esports. But I would argue that if they can't get anyone in for the iRacing side of it, how competitive will that team be?
Well, it's very difficult to say, but I will correct you. It's Core Sim Racing.
Core Sim. I always get the two confused, all right? It's a Sunday evening.
It's Sunday evening. They're both German. They're both called Core. How more difficult can you make your life? But this is the thing. If you get in through a different circle, that doesn't necessarily make you a better or worse driver for the 100% of it. Just because you qualify in a different area, yes, it means that you're not taking part in the iRacing stuff where maybe the competition may be a little bit stronger, but by the same point, you have to adapt to a different set of skills if you go somewhere else and try and qualify, which I think a lot of drivers certainly have. And fair credit to the likes of Isaac Price, who have done it through a different medium, and being able to do it in a different medium has certainly gone and proven that he is the most versatile, and when it comes to adaptability of getting ready and getting into the role of using McLaren's test simulator, he will be one of the drivers who gets up to speed the fastest compared to other drivers who are maybe venturing only, say, Gregor Hutu, 5 years in iRacing, let's say, whoever else it is that comes in through the iRacing qualifiers, don't necessarily have that same versatility that Isaac Price has had.
And I will say one thing as well, we've got to remember that Isaac Price is a world champion on iRacing as well in the Blancpain GT series. He was underlooked throughout the majority of that season because he had a Freddie Rasmussen as his teammate. But Isaac Price, we looked at the lap times in detail after that final round at the Nürburgring in the Blancpain GT series. You know what? Isaac Price was right with Freddie, and he has developed so much since leaving the INX Racing team. Let's talk quickly about the Orion race team, though, here today, Paul, because 2 drivers in the top 5, that's good. David Accord maybe screwed over in this event. I think he maybe had a bit of damage.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that little bit of contact that they had at turn number 11, and that maybe affected him sort of top speed wise. He was able to keep it in and about with them, but he just didn't have that extra sort of tenth or tenth and a half on a lap on the other 2 in front of him, even with DRS at times. So he did certainly have something affecting him there, but Zoran Jonjic as well. Great result for him to get into that top 5. I think one man that will be disappointed from Orion is Ilkka Harpala. Nightmare of a day, didn't get a qualifying lap in, got involved in a few shenanigans as well, and just seemed to be all out of sorts today. He just didn't seem to be quite up to speed today.
I will say one thing as well, that shows how qualifying is so important, Jake, because we know how good Ilkka Harpala is. We've seen him. I mean, he is one of the longest serving drivers in the history of the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. One of the few drivers to have a win to his name. But today, it showed if you don't qualify, then you're always going to struggle.
It doesn't matter what your reputation is before you come into this event. It's what matters in 4 races or however many races over 4 weeks that decides your fate. It doesn't matter if you've won an iRacing World Championship event. It doesn't matter if you've never participated in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. All that matters is if you get to that top of the timing sheet after the end of 4 weeks and you go, I am the quickest and I punch my ticket to World's Fastest Gamers Finals. You know, Ilkka Harpala, for all intents and purposes, P11 today. The fluctuation of P2 to P11, I think that's enough to take him out of the title hunt, if you're perfectly honest with me. But yeah, if you want to understand on consistency values and where you get yourself back into play, don't count out Jamie Fluke. Just because he didn't race the opening race or we didn't see him didn't mean he didn't score points, and he will come back into this event and score some very good points, and I expect a top 5 at least from the Apex Racing UK driver.
Okay, so let's think about this one then in terms of people who might still qualify for this event and get themselves into the final. Fluke is one of those drivers who's in that mix. Partington is on the edge, I would say. He had a bad race today. He's almost out. Ilkka Harpala, same position. I would say David Accorley is still in that mix, however. Frank Shorthorse is now certainly in that mix, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at that top 3 and you think that those are the main protagonists of this for the rest of the next 2 weeks. But you never know. There's plenty more twists and turns. Monza next week, completely different track to the first 2 weeks that we've had. It's all about that high speed and getting the drive out of the corners at that track. And that could favour somebody else here. So you never know. We could get a 3rd different winner in 3 weeks.
Can I say, Will?
Go on.
Can I say that Redline traditionally work better on higher downforce setups compared to lower downforce setup circuits? So this is the bogey week, you could say, for Frank Shorthorse coming up. So he's got to be extra careful on what happens with him.
Have you been talking to Johnny Simone?
No.
Because that's exactly what he said about high downforce tracks and the fact that they were at the Nürburgring, of course, a couple of weeks ago in the World Championship, well, a couple of days ago, a day ago even, in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. I worked a 70-hour week last week. Leave me alone, everyone. But also worth noting that Monza as the next track, Jake, is one where literally what you do is you take up the copybook, you tear it in half, you tear it in half again, set fire to it, throw it out the window, stamp on it, pour some iced coffee on it, and then think, okay, we're going to find a winner somewhere.
Yes, I do agree with you on that, and I think Apex become the favourites actually coming into that event. We know how good they are. Or Inex, yes, it may be something that Jake Sturgis comes into and starts to excel in because of their high-speed setup and the way that they work very well. But I will use prior form in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. Peter Berryman got the pole position for Apex Racing UK this year. What is the chance of Jamie Fluke doing the same thing? I think there is a lot that can be read into it.
You want to talk about disappointment? Coanda Sim Sports, though, Jake, because they've been nowhere in this series. And I mean, you know, they are the team that has won the last 2 iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series. And I know the fact that Martin Cronke's not competing for his own reasons. I know that Mitchell de Jong isn't competing for his own reasons. But Coanda are a big team. And what this is showing to me right now is that Coanda is a team where when the big guys don't sort them out, they can't compete.
I do agree with you in that respect. I think that David Williams and also Jake Hewlett didn't do the best that they can do, but as we know very well, Jake Hewlett is still a driver very much in development, and David Williams is not necessarily the Formula One guy. He is the driver that you depend on for GT3, for Porsche, for anything that is in that close-wheeled circuit. The same could be said for Klaus Kivikas. The same could be said for the likes of Rens Broekman. I think that Coanda are more than just a Formula One team, but at the same point, when you do stick in drivers who aren't necessarily Formula One drivers first and foremost, you are almost setting yourself up to fail. And I think that if you have a driver like Matt Backham trying to go for this, he'd be up there fighting with Showthorse. But it goes to show you that Coanda aren't necessarily thinking too much about it. It may be that their drivers are going, okay, well, we want to run this, so we'll come in and we'll do this event, us two drivers doing it. And who knows how much support they've had behind the scenes to go out and go for it.
Who knows indeed. Next time we'll go on track, though, will be at Monza in a couple of weeks' time here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. It is a part of McLaren's World's Fastest Gamer. And again, these were the standings heading into the event here today. David Acor led the way in terms of the points. That won't be the same coming out. I'm just having a look and thinking Frank Shawhorse should have himself the lead of the championship, but it is still only going to be by a few points, Paul. In fact, you might even have the most up-to-date information.
I'm just as you're talking about that, I'm furiously looking at this, and Frick Shawhorse is in the lead by 12 points. He has 564 points compared to David Acor, who's on 552 points. Michael Partington in third place, 471 points. Zoran Jonjic is 454 points, and Jamie Fluke rounding at the top 5 with 447 points.
So it's close. That's basically the way we're going to leave you here today, ladies and gentlemen, on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Thank you so much to everyone who's been a part of our coverage here today. Thank you so much to our sponsors and our partners as well. I'm going to put them on screen for you very quickly. First of all, to Istvan Balal for track cams for gourmets. Our overlay done by Andreas Warner of And One Design. And all the back of house stuff that you see in terms of our graphics is done by Simon Grossman and AppEngineer.in. Live timing and scoring brought to you by Nick Thisson. You can find that, of course, every race that we do on RaceSpot.tv/timing. But that is it. That's all we've got time for here today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in Monza in 7 days' time.